food trends and how they're influencing product development. I'm going to start by having a look at some major trends we saw occurring in 2013 and how we feel that they'll continue into 2014. The two big ones are naturalness and high protein. Bear in mind these are sort of more global trends, but I'll talk about how they might apply here in China. And then just looking forward, a few things that we feel are interesting that we are focusing on. So first of all, we're talking about innovation. Ingredients are definitely a key focus for innovation, and it's something we're seeing more and more front of pack. So we're seeing with the food trends that are often led by celebrity chefs, restaurants, and what's happening in the media, really influencing what ingredients are being used. And some key examples there are quinoa. As you see it more and more being used front of pack, it's a real on-trend as an ingredient. And then other things like I talked about this morning with the Greek yogurt phenomenon that we've seen in the US and then continuing in other countries. We now see that the Greek yogurt actually used as an ingredient in things, whether it be between a biscuit, as a dip, or in this case here, it's surrounding a snack bar. Coconut water we've seen over the last few years has been incredibly popular, but now we've seen how that has made other areas of coconut popular. So we've seen things like coconut milk have a bit of a revival. We've seen coconut palm sugar being called out a lot more, coconut oil, and maybe even sea coconut for China might be next. So, of course, the big question is always what's next, what's coming up. There's a lot of things that obviously could be that next thing. For ingredients, could it be rice bran oil? Could it be something like buffalo berries? Could they be the next blueberries? The next ancient grain, could it be fricay? We're starting to see that appear. Hemp seeds are becoming more and more popular. Or will companies look more at different compounds? And there's a number of compounds that we're seeing sort of emerging, athenatine, tryptophan, ornithine, and omega-7, all for various different uses, but the first two very much for more of the focus that we're seeing at the moment on mood foods, things to help reduce your stress and make you more relaxed. And then there's also a bit of a focus on the way the ingredient is processed, whether it's fermented, which is obviously very important in this part of the world, whether it's been sprouted, whether it's a foam, or whether it's been slow processed, or maybe even in the raw state, the green state. One example there would be green coffee bean extract. So I'll focus on the first trend we're looking at, which is naturalness. This is a global trend that we see continuing. I'm going to have a quick look at sweeteners, energy sources, and colours. So if we look first here at our overall trends globally, you'll see here naturalness trend is the overriding trend. We're seeing in the no additives, no preservatives being growth between 2012 and 2013. But the other interesting global trend here is the amount of free-from claims. So these are claims on food and drink launches. So you'll see gluten-free is particularly growing, anything to do with allergens, meat-free, and then kosher is also another one that's in the top 5 globally. For China, though, it's a little bit different. Naturalness is still high in terms of the no additives, no preservatives claim. But then these other claims are quite different. So low sugar, vitamin fortified, and digestive are the key claims there. So not the free-from claims. So at the moment in China, we haven't seen, and we're probably not likely to in the immediate future see those free-from claims here in terms of gluten and so forth. So one key way that manufacturers are using to promote naturalness is through provenance, various examples, but this is a great one here. We're now using digital technology. You can scan the code on this tuna and locate where your tuna or salmon in this case came from. So exactly where it came from, where it was caught, and the species of salmon it is. So consumers are demanding a lot more information. There's a lot more prove it to me sort of a need within consumers, and this is one way that people are showing it. But of course, although provenances are sometimes seen as a shortcut way to showing naturalness, it's not always how it reads. So in this case, where if you were reading a label that said homemade cured bacon, it could come from anywhere really. So you still need to obviously back it up with a good brand and good manufacturing processes. Another way we see people sort of highlighting naturalness or helping people's concerns is these examples where you're using very few ingredients. These are really simple. This one here, a yogurt that's only got 3 ingredients, and then this one here which has only got 2, apple and pear. So a very clever yet simple way to sort of promote being as natural as possible. In the sweeteners areas, we're seeing a growth overall in natural sweeteners, and when I say natural, I'm meaning from naturally derived. So the definition of natural can vary between markets and so forth. So I've just used natural origin sweeteners. So I've used the main one, of course, is stevia that has had the most growth in the last few years since its approval in more countries. So you'll see here the growth in natural sweeteners, and then also what we're seeing is the calling out of some natural sweeteners more front of pack, particularly stevia. So in countries where they haven't been able to class it as natural, there's still that implying that it's natural by using pictures of leaves and so forth to sort of build up images of naturalness. In China, we see xylitol being used a lot and called out on front of pack. So that's one key sweetener we see called out here in China. Colours is quite interesting. There's been quite an activity in Asia for natural flavours, particularly in countries like Vietnam, where there was quite a big move a couple of years ago towards natural colours after some good advertising by one company that showed how much artificial colour was in their instant noodles, and a lot of people didn't realise that, and there was like a mother's reaction to realising there was so much artificial colour in her noodles. So that sort of pushed quite a change towards natural colours. But the other thing that is interesting that we're seeing is the use of superfruits or super vegetables or any sort of superfoods that's naturally coloured, and trying to make that association with the natural colours that are in the product, or a health benefit, which is an interesting one. So this is interesting, this Be Naturals jelly bean, which is the flavours of the jelly beans are superfruits like pomegranate and blueberry, and it uses natural colours. There's no actual fruit in the jelly bean, but they're making that association with the natural superfruits. This one in the middle here, they're actually used like purple sweet potato and orange sweet potato, and they're calling out that the anthocyanin or the beta-carotene content in the sweet potato has a health benefit or is an antioxidant. And similarly, this one on the end, which is a bubble latte, the colour in the bubble is being they're saying it's derived from beetroot and carrots. So again, linking up to a natural source, and even better, a natural superfood or perceived superfood. Energy is another category we're seeing a sway towards natural. In certain countries, there's been a lot of bad press about some of the energy drinks over the last few years. So we're seeing more and more companies sort of look for alternative natural energy sources, sometimes caffeine-free, but not necessarily caffeine-free. This is a great example here where it's using guarana, but then it's also using, again, superfruits, and it's calling them out there on the front with the juice But it's naturally sourced caffeine, so it does have caffeine in it, but they're saying it's from a natural source. This is another area that we find interesting, and it's one that we're watching. Again, not a new area in terms of obviously the use of traditional herbs in drinks has been around for a long time, but we're seeing it move a lot more into RTD format. So again, it's not that it's new, it's just that it's more an RTD format. The other key thing to note here is the amount of big players that have put research behind traditional Chinese herbs and tried to put some science behind it to either get some claims approved or to give consumers the confidence that these products work. And then there's an interesting one here by PepsiCo at the end here, where there's got a patent for a TCM ingredient blend for energy. In various markets, we've already seen a few launches of these already. This is one by Coca-Cola, a beauty-orientated tea in Japan. And then Thailand, there is a number of sort of quite big launches there, Habu, which is like a cooling beverage and so forth. So yeah, again, some big players promoting an older concept, but in an RTD format. These aren't new products, this is just really to show you that we're seeing energy more and more across categories. So it's that whole movement of a trend across other categories. The other big story is protein. This is something we're starting to see in China. It's been a big phenomenon in the US. So if we have a look here, you'll see the US has definitely driven this trend, but we've seen it evolve, we've seen it change. We feel it's going to continue to change. So at the moment you'll see here, top market obviously is the US, but one of the fastest growing markets is China. A big change in the amount of claims in high protein on food and drinks in the last year. So quite a big change, so definitely something to watch. So traditionally, we've seen a lot of high protein more in the muscle building, sort of that sort of arena, but then we've seen it move into dairy, into snacks, and then now into dairy. The Greek yogurt phenomenon that I talked about this morning is definitely driven a lot of that growth. So you'll see dairy is one of the biggest growth areas. So still in snacks, but probably moved from those bodybuilding bars into more just everyday cereal bars, snack bars, and now into the dairy cabinet. So yeah, quite an interesting trend to watch, but as I said, quite a bit of growth here in China in claims. So just to give you an idea of how we see this trend evolving. So we've started to see it now in the breakfast area. So high protein wasn't really a claim sort of called out for breakfast, but we're seeing it more and more now for breakfast. And by big companies like Kellogg's with their Special K brand, they have a number of products where they call out high protein. This product here from M&S, which is called Fuller Longer, so that's a Marks and Spencer's, it's a private label. Oh, what did I do? What happened? Sorry, did I do that or? Oh, here we go. I'll go over here. I'll practice my Chinese.
Oh, that's okay.
I have no control on that side. Okay, sorry. Okay, so this product here is a private label product from Marks and Spencer's in the UK. Now this product's not new, it's been around since 2011, but it's continued to do well because consumers can understand it. So it's called Fuller Longer. So the high protein obviously makes you feel fuller longer. So you not only can use it for weight loss, but also for weight management. So to keep your weight constant. So it just makes you feel full. So this sort of benefit consumers can understand. It's very simple. It's easy. There feels like there's no trick to it, and it's not a complicated thing for brands to do. So we feel, for that reason, that this high protein trend that's been around for a while will continue, but it will evolve. This is one other area we've seen high protein move into, which is the milk sports drinks. Not sure how long or how well it will do in this arena yet. It's sort of early days, because milk's not generally seen as a refreshing sports beverage, but there's a lot of science behind the benefits of milk protein, the different proteins weigh and casein at different times of your sports routine, and how that would build your muscles up or help you repair after sports. So it's an area to watch, but probably won't have quite the success as in other categories. This is a great area, a great success story with the high protein in the yogurts and dairy cabinet. In the US, a big growth area for high protein, but great ad campaigns that have backed it up. This one from Danone with the 12 grams of protein, and showing here that it's equivalent to like cooking a piece of chicken on the barbecue. So very much taking the yogurt category, which was traditionally aimed more at females, to really targeting males for building up muscle, but not the extreme sort of muscle building arena. This one in the middle here, powerful yogurt, really fun campaigns, really great social media, and yeah, really building that image of high protein in the yogurts. And this one on the end here in a chocolate milk with a great strapline there, the manly chocolate milk for men with added man. So yeah, definitely a whole change in the category there. And then lastly, just looking at snacking, and then obviously good opportunities in China just to use some of the high protein foods that are already used as traditional snacks to be used to take advantage of that high protein trend, whether it be meat, beans, or curd on the end. But this is just to show you how we feel that it's changing. This is another sort of probably untapped area, which is the seniors category. These products aren't aimed directly at seniors. Interestingly, of all the food and drink launches globally, only 0.6% are aimed at seniors. Yet we have globally an ageing population, and in China you have 200 million people over the age of 65. So there's definitely an area that's sort of a little bit untapped. Japan and Vietnam probably do most marketing towards seniors, more so than any other country, and Korea, probably South Korea has started. But generally as you age, of course, you lose your muscles, so that high protein trend is a good opportunity to tap into that seniors segment. You'll see here, these products are aimed at sort of normal muscle mass, so not directly at seniors, but it is an area that could potentially have some opportunities. And these are just some examples of more products that we've seen in China that are starting to have that high protein claim. So they're more traditional products, like your soy drink, donkey meat, and a high protein nutritious drink. So looking forward, this is where I sort of change and go into a little bit of a different direction here. This is sort of one area we've seen change, is beauty drinks. Over the last year, we've seen at least 24% growth in the amount of beauty drinks. So again, beauty drinks are not necessarily new, but we're seeing a lot more in the RTD format, but more so in Asia, particularly in countries like China, Japan, Korea, and Thailand, a little bit in the Philippines as well. But definitely seeing more and more. And these are, in some countries, everyday products in terms of you can buy them at your convenience shops, your 7-Elevens, your Family Marts, and that sort of places. So they're not niche products by any means. And a lot of them are based on juice to link up again with that natural benefit of some of the superfruits. And a lot of them have collagen in them as well. This product here is actually from the US. It doesn't have collagen in it, but it's promoting that the ingredients in it produces more collagen. So we're probably starting to see a lot more sort of science-led claims and trying to prove and the use of different ingredients. This is just an interesting one in terms of marketing. You're probably all familiar with the BB cream that's done extremely well from Korea for beauty, and now we're seeing that being used as a term in tea. So this is a BBT detox tea. This is a German product, but it's quite clever marketing the way they've sort of linked that up with the beautiful skin, yet it's a food. So a little bit of a crossover there now with beauty foods and the beauty segment as well. These are some of the ingredients. I won't go through them all, but definitely the key ones are collagen and hyaluronic acid. But again, anything to do with antioxidants seems to do well, and it's something consumers can understand. And then there's a number of emerging ingredients there that we're seeing, including some of the ones that are promoted for internal glow or whitening. So they're doing particularly well in Thailand. This is just to show you a nice little campaign by a beauty company, a Korean beauty company, Innisfree, and how they've linked their ingredients with where they come from in Korea. I think that's just a nice sort of link up in that whole story of provenance to give that natural story, so leveraging where the ingredients come from. So lastly, just a couple of slides here, sort of a different angle again, where we've seen quite a growth or innovation in slimming beverages. So it's sort of some major launches in 2012 were using indigestible dextrin in some of the cola beverages, and these were fat-absorbing claims around these colas. Then we've seen some with carnitine and quercetin, again all sort of centred around the slimming or fat-absorbing technology in Japan. But more recently, we've seen a couple of teas from Suntory where they've focused on polyphenols. So an interesting area here where they're focusing on the use of polyphenols to reduce your absorption of fat. Some of them say they activate an enzyme to break down the fat. Now, these have been big, high-profile launches, either in Japan or in Korea. I'm just going to show you an advert. It's in Thai, but you could understand it by the pictures. And I'll just give you a bit of an idea of the hype that was built up around this particular tea.
For the video.
Sorry?
For the video.
For the video, yeah.
Thank
you. So hopefully this will work. Oh, here he goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, does it show? Oh, it's not showing me through.
Sorry.
Oh, here we go. Just show it there.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. So a bit of a fun campaign. So they were saying you had to actually have a fatty meal and then have the tea. So it's quite interesting. But in China, I think tea has been traditionally drunk with a sort of a fattier meal anyway. So again, it's something that's sometimes already been done, but there's just more now in an RTD format with a little bit more science behind it. Then there's my conclusion in Chinese. Oh, can I have the English version?
Okay, I try. The computer is a little lazy. Okay.
So just the second last slide, I think we need.
Okay.
Excellent. So yeah, so to sum up, so we see the overriding trend of naturalness will continue. So we've seen it over the last few years. We feel that will continue. Thank you. So there'll be more of a focus though on natural ingredients, particularly colours, flavours, natural sweeteners, and the use of natural energy sources, as well as the use of traditional Chinese sort of herbs and so forth to leverage that naturalness. The other thing we see is the high protein trend continuing, moving beyond the US, or continuing to move beyond the US, but then also evolving. So we've already seen it move. We feel now it's going to move more into that weight management, high satiety area, because people can understand it. It resonates well with consumers. But then we see one of the areas for potential still now for high protein is the seniors, and particularly in China, given the ageing population. Looking forward, possibly a more focus on beauty ingredients, and then also slimming ingredients, particularly with some of the innovation we've seen in Japan. And polyphenols seems to be something particularly to focus on, and Katjin's will continue. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Is there any questions? Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. And I see from your presentation you have mentioned several health benefits. And my question is, first, do you have any information about which kinds of health benefits is the most popular in the food industry now? And my second question is, what kind of final products are mostly related with such kind of health benefits? For example, for the beauty concept, we have a lot of RTD beverage because it's easy to consume and have the good taste. Such information like this. So I wonder if you can share with me. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so probably one of the key health focuses here in China that we see is digestive. So there's a lot of focus on products with digestive claims, but then otherwise probably more focused on safety and trying to build up the idea of natural, or the idea that it's safe. But definitely digestive claims would be one of the highest. In terms of concerns in our consumer data, probably one of the highest concerns we see in Chinese is fatigue, stress, and lack of sleep. So possibly the whole movement towards mood food and reducing stress, and that whole pace of life is also an area to tap into. And that's why I think consumers like the idea of antioxidants, because they can sort of understand their benefits, and particularly if they're perceived to be from a natural source, consumers understand that. They like things that they can understand. Now your second question was, sorry. Was there, you had two parts to that question, was it? There was sorry, can you repeat your second question? Oh, okay, so I did answer that, yes, so the different products. Okay, perfect. Any other questions? No more? Oh, yes, one more here.
Thank you very much, and a very interesting presentation. My question is that since we see a lot of new products on the market every year, but only few of them are getting successful. For example, the Greek yogurt from Danone. So what do you see behind these? What kind of the factors are behind those products to make it successful?
Sure. Well, with some of the successes we've seen in the example, like the Greek yogurt, and that, a lot of it was to do with the hype that was built up around the yogurt. So again, it wasn't a new concept, but they really focused on some key attributes of the yogurt, not the fact that it had the nutritional benefits of high protein and low fat, but more that it was great taste and texture, but they built up what they called the Chobani love stories around the yogurt. Got people interested, got people to engage in the product through social media, through blogging and so forth, and to post stories about their love of Chobani. And that sort of built up hype. So with a lot of products that we've seen do well, there's been quite a bit of hype around the product. Yeah. Sorry.
But do you see, because you mentioned that the next trend is going to be the beauty food.
Yes.
So is that possible for you to make a prediction that maybe what kind of product maybe gets successful, or will the beauty food or beauty drinks will get successful in the next 2 years?
Well, we've sort of been watching it in other markets. So we've seen it, increase in the likes of Japan and in Thailand in the last few years. And as I said, it's more because some of the products have had extremely good distribution as well. So they're in your everyday convenience store. So when you go in to select your drink, you can select a juice that just happens to have some beauty benefits as well. So it's appealing, but they're sort of natural beauty benefits. So they're not seen as sort of scary ingredients. So consumers have sort of latched onto them quite well. But also there's been some good fun campaigns around the drinks and so forth. So that appears to be why they've done well. Any more? Another question?
Yes, thank you for the excellent presentation. My question is, as you mentioned, a lot of natural ingredients and the trend in your presentation, and I think it's mostly for the global trend of the successful ingredients in the global market, and some are from Asian market. But do you have some specific research data for China market?
In terms of consumers?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of consumer data. But what sort of areas did you want to focus on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in China, the consumers are most influenced by the traditional Chinese medicine.
Very much so.
So do you see any difference between the global trend and the situation in China?
Yes, definitely. Definitely much more of a focus on tradition, the use of sort of some natural home remedies that we're now seeing in the RTD format. So we think that would be an interesting area to focus on. Even the likes of a traditional drink, is it the rock pear sugar, that has done well now in RTD format. So again, it's not necessarily a new concept, it's just taking that to a packaged good. So it's definitely an area to focus on, is that natural area of health that people can understand, and Chinese consumers particularly look for natural health benefits.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Oh, another question at the back there.
Thank you. My question is, what kind of challenges do you see for Chinese companies when they are trying to innovate and capture the global trends or typical trends for China market?
Well, I suppose you can have some great ideas and some great innovation in your product, but it's I suppose the positioning then becomes the hardest, and creating that engagement with consumers and hype. So it's all very well, you can launch a fantastic product, but it's very hard. There's so many products in China, is to engage that consumer. This afternoon, I suppose we hear from some companies that have done quite well in China, and hopefully we'll give a bit more insight into some case studies of what other companies have done. Now, I haven't got my speaker notes up here anymore, but I think I can remember who the next speaker is.